it's Miraculous time, and I want to talk about Marinette and her relationship with her parents for a lot of reasons. One, it's a healthy relationship, which we don't see a lot of, and two, I really enjoy it. So I have talked in the past, mostly on TikTok, about the relationships between the children and the parents in Miraculous. I talked about Gabriel Agreste and how he's a really shitty father. Except the crazier he gets, the better of a dad he becomes, which is further evidence that he is a really shitty dad. I haven't talked about it, but I have opinions about Chloe and her father and her mother and that whole mess, and we will get into that in future videos. I promise. I have strong opinions about the child-parental relationships in Miraculous. But I want to start off with, I think, one of the strongest parental-child relationships, which is Marinette and her parents. And I think it's important that we start off with that particular relationship because as an American who watches the cartoon, growing up with American cartoons, we didn't have the best parental relationships depicted for us in our media. We had the parents weren't around. They were just non-existent. They just didn't exist. Like, Charlie Brown was wah, 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 wah. That was the closest we got to parents existing. And Disney pretty much killed every parent that existed. Or they were super abusive and became the villain. Unless it was Frozen, in which case they were super abusive and then died. Like, parents are not a thing that are depicted positively in American media to children. And if you want to go a step outside of cartoons and get into live action shows, especially the Disney Channel, as a Disney kid, like I was obsessed with Disney Channel, I'm a Disney adult now, they very much pushed this rhetoric of your parent is one of two parents. It is your best fucking friend, and they give you everything you want all the time, and the second that they stop giving you everything you want all the time, they become the other end of the spectrum, which is your worst enemy, they suck, you hate your parent. And those are the only two types of parents that exist in the world. And you as a child have to feel that way, or there's something wrong with you. On the flip side of that same coin, parents that watched these depictions in media of a parental-child relationship with their children were also being fed that same message, but from the parental side. If you are not your child's best friend or your child's worst enemy, you're parenting wrong. That is the narrative that is given to children and parents en masse in America. There are some differences. Like, there are occasionally you'll get a show or a movie that's like, nah, we're gonna step outside of that box because that box is unhealthy. The problem is those shows very rarely do as well as the shows that stay inside that box because it's pushing a liberal agenda. And that is, unfortunately, the political climate has everything to do with how we absorb our media. And I wish that wasn't the case. It would be amazing if we could watch or read or listen to something and enjoy it without having to worry about every little nuanced thing behind it. But every little nuanced thing behind it is how it came to be in the first place. I'm going to touch on Owl House real quick here for a second. There was a lot of LGBTQIA plus connotations in it. I've never heard or watched any of Owl House. I only know a little bit about Owl House. I know from Tumblr and like friends of mine. I'm like secondhand fandom. And I know that it basically got canceled because there was a gay character, maybe 2 gay characters. Like I said, I don't know a lot about the situation, but given the political and social climate here in America, that's entirely, like, the political social climate is why it got canceled. Because they didn't want to push a liberal agenda. And because of that, it got shut down. And that is the nuance behind it. There is no ifs, ands, ors about it. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a stutter. And so when we address any sort of media that is consumed, especially media directed for children and aired as the demographic is children, we have to keep that in mind. And that is why when Miraculous, I know it is a French cartoon created by, like, the creator is French, and it was created by a French cartoon company, even though Disney was like, nah, we're gonna buy that because we're the mascot of an evil corporation. Like, I get that. But because it was like, we don't have to follow all of America's bullshit, because that's what it is, it's bullshit. It gave us a lot of different dynamics in a light that as Americans we're not used to seeing. And it was really refreshing, and I'm really excited to get to talk about it with you guys. So, there is one particular episode of Miraculous that I want to talk about that exemplifies everything that I just mentioned. And that is, I think it's season 1, maybe 2, where Marinette gets grounded by her parents for being Ladybug. They don't know that she's Ladybug, and that's why they're grounding her. But that's essentially what it boils down to. So Marinette is sneaking out and missing class, and she's lying to her friends, and she's lying to her parents about where she is. She's not going to class, like she's not supposed to be. She's not in PE, she's not in study hall. And when her dad questions her, she's like, Monday morning, you weren't in PE, where were you? She's like, I was in study hall. Wednesday, absent from study hall, where were you? PE. And they get frustrated with their daughter, and they're like, you're never where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. What the heck, Marinette? What's going on? That is a perfectly legitimate response for any parent to have with their child, my understanding, from anywhere in the world. If you have a child, a tiny human that you are responsible for, you want to know that they're safe. That just follows a train of logic, which I like that they put that into the cartoon, because too many times in cartoons from any culture, we see this disillusion of like, this is a cartoon, real world rules don't apply. And yes, we're watching a superhero cartoon. She has magic jewelry that gives her superpowers and like fixes the world, and people get akumatized by a butterfly monster. I get it. There is a certain amount of disbelief that you just have to accept when watching this kind of cartoon. I get it. However, adding realistic things like your parent wanting to know where the teenager is because the teenager is clearly not in class, their friends don't know where the teenager is, and then the teenager is lying and getting caught in circles lying about it, so the teenager gets grounded. That's a very realistic thing. And it makes the cartoon more tangible and more real and more relatable. Because suddenly you go from, there's no way I can even pretend this is real or really feel the cartoon as something I can relate to, because this child, this 14, 15-year-old child, is getting away with blatant lies and skipping school like there's no consequences in the world. Like, do her parents just not care? Like, how is she getting away with this? And so the fact that her parents, one, love and care about her well-being enough to be like, what the hell, Marinette? And 2, confront her about it and are like, all right, kid, we know what's going on. This is your chance to tell us the truth. You're not where you're supposed to be. Where are you going? Tell us the truth. And Marinette knows she can't tell them the truth because she can't look at her parents and go, well, I'm Paris's superhero Ladybug, and I'm off risking my life doing acrobatic, dangerous stunts to stop akumatized villains, and I tell you guys that I put you at risk. She can't do that. So she lies to them, and she gets caught lying, and she refuses to tell them why she's lying. So they frustratedly ground her. All of that is realistic, and it makes sense, and it makes the cartoon more tangible. And I love that. It just, chef's kiss. Amazing. Just, I could not love the show without those little moments. And like, those moments happen with not just her parents, they happen with her friends, they happen between other characters that have nothing to do with Marinette, and it helps make the show for me. It really does. What I appreciate about this particular interaction in this particular episode is Marinette's reaction after her parents ground her. So, Marinette's parents have talked to her, she's lied, she's been caught lying, she won't budge and tell them the truth. She can't, because it puts them in more danger than her just lying, so they ground her. She's reasonably frustrated. Every teenager gets frustrated when they're grounded. I was a teenager once. Sometimes I still feel like I am. Doesn't matter that I'm 26 years old. Sometimes I just feel overwhelmed. I get it. I'm just a child with a drinking permit, is really what it comes down to. You know? So Marinette is reasonably frustrated. She's like, I'm missing school. I'm lying to people I care about to protect them. And I'm saving Paris on a daily basis. It's exhausting. And we definitely see that in the later seasons as Marinette starts to experience depression and isolation and burnout, which we will definitely talk about later, because I love the commentary on mental health that this show gives us. But we're still in the early parts of the show where she's still figuring out how to be a teenage superhero. But we see a massive amount of maturity on Marinette's part for her to be like, you know what? It sucks that I'm grounded. It really does, Tiki, because she's talking to Tiki. But my parents aren't being unreasonable. I'm lying to them. What choice do they have? I have to figure out a way to be Ladybug and still keep up my responsibilities as Marinette. And so instead of throwing a temper tantrum and being angry and saying life is unfair and my parents hate me, she realizes not only do her actions of lying and sneaking around, because she has been doing that, have consequences. She realizes that if she wants to uphold the responsibility of being Ladybug, she also has to figure out how to uphold her responsibilities of being Marinette by going to school. And, like, if she doesn't want to lie to her parents any more than the bare minimum necessity for keeping her secret identity, she has to avoid putting herself and her parents in situations where she's forced to lie to them. And so the whole episode gets all kinds of crazy. She's got to deal with an akumatized villain. You know, we've got the copy-paste, somebody's angry, they get akumatized, they save the day part of the show that I love. But you've got the B plot of Marinette figuring out how to uphold her responsibilities of going to school and doing what she's supposed to do while still getting to be Ladybug. Which feeds into the later on why she gets burned out, because, you know, she's never taking a break for her mental health, which I love the commentary that we can have on that later. But the fact of the matter is, it shows immense maturity on her part to see her parents' point of view, accept it, and work towards it, instead of just saying she hates her parents. Because if this had been an American-made cartoon written by an American creator, her parents would have been the absolute worst, that they just don't understand. She would not have taken responsibility for her actions. She would not have tried to go to school and like worked it out and figured out how to be a responsible student and Ladybug. And her parents would have been frustrated, but the grounding wouldn't have worked. So they wouldn't have continued the grounding, and there wouldn't have been any real consequences for her actions. Because in American culture and in American media targeted at children, unless you are a tiny child watching cartoons like from Playhouse Disney, if that's even still a thing, they don't care about teaching us not to be assholes. Because I don't know if Americans know this, the rest of the world knows it, but I don't know if Americans know it. Americans are assholes. And it's entirely because parents were taught, as we talked in the very beginning of this world, either be your best friend to your child or be an asshole to your child. The problem with being your child's best friend is you don't teach your child how to not be an asshole. And the problem with only being an asshole to your child is your child grows up thinking that you have to be an asshole when you're an adult. So either way, you raise a tiny asshole to grow up to be an asshole. So having Miraculous, which is a foreign cartoon, we have to accept that as Americans. It's a foreign cartoon. It's a French cartoon that just happens to be translated in English that is vastly popular over here. Given to little kids, it's helping them realize that there are dynamics in relationships outside of what we have been taught is the norm. And that is part of why I love Miraculous. Because if we're being fully honest, America's probably one of the laziest countries in the world, and raising your child here is putting them in front of a TV and hoping they don't bug you until you have to throw McDonald's at them. That's what it is. That's a huge part of what my childhood was. And I know I'm not the only one. And no, that's not every child in America, but it's enough of them that I can say with confidence that that is what raising your child in America is. So to have a cartoon out there that has episodes like this that can show the complex dichotomy of different family dynamics and relationships and show children that no, you don't have to grow up to be a dick just to be an adult. And no, your parents aren't unreasonable all of the time. They don't have to be. They can still love each other and show each other mutual respect. I love that so much from this show. And this episode in particular shows that really well. But the whole show shows that. Because we see that from both of her parents in separate episodes that are more intimate, like episodes with her mom when her mom gets akumatized, and more intimate episodes with her dad when her dad gets akumatized. And it's always because they love their daughter. And they're trying their hardest to be good parents, but they're still human beings. And I think that we as children forget, and I say we as children as in like we as people forget that our parents are people too sometimes, especially here in America. So to have this cartoon be accessible to us and have a lot of us grow up with the show really helped the generation like be less assholey. And I'm not saying it fixed the problem and that all Ladybug fans are not assholes, because I've met some Ladybug fans that I'm like, really? Hawkmoth would be proud of you. Like, they give me the ick. I'm not saying the fan base is perfect, but I am saying that I think these episodes in particular, because there's a lot of them, helped children or even teenagers, or in my case adults, because I didn't come to the show until I was already an adult, heal from some of the trauma of having really fucked up dynamics with our parents because of the social influences of the way American media has depicted the child-parental relationship and the way that we and our parents bought into it. And I think that that is really cool. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have anything you wanted to add, or if you have ideas or thoughts on the next one, please let me know in the comment section below. I'd be happy to hear you out and start a discussion thread. That's what this whole channel is about, is discussing Miraculous and coming together as a community to bring our thoughts together and bring our love for this show into an open discussion so that we can all open our minds and really appreciate the show for everything it has to offer. And that's all I have for today, so I will see you guys in the next one. Bug out. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have anything you wanted to add, or if you have ideas or thoughts on the next one, please let me know in the comment section below. I'd be happy to hear you out and start a discussion thread. That's what this whole channel is about, is discussing Miraculous and coming together as a community to bring our thoughts together and bring our love for this show into an open discussion so that we can all open our minds and really appreciate the show for everything it has to offer. And that's all I have for today, so I will see you guys in the next one. Bug out. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have anything you wanted to add, or if you have ideas or thoughts on the next one, please let me know in the comment section below. I'd be happy to hear you out and start a discussion thread. That's what this whole channel is about, is discussing Miraculous and coming together as a community to bring our thoughts together and bring our love for this show into an open discussion so that we can all open our minds and really appreciate the show for everything it has to offer. And that's all I have for today, so I will see you guys in the next one. Bug out.